Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching my Australian Open 2018 vlog. This is, of course, the final entry now that the tournament has concluded, and we have two champions in the singles field. Caroline Wozniacki wins her first Grand Slam in the women's singles, and Roger Federer wins his 20th Grand Slam in the men's singles. So I'm going to take this opportunity to review not only the finals itself, but just some trends from the tournament. I'll start from the women's side. I thought the women's final between Caroline Wozniacki and Simona Halep lived up to the hype, lived up to the billing. There was a lot of tension, a lot of pressure on both players. After all, this was also a battle for the world number one. And I'm happy to say, finally, after a long time, we have a new world number one who's actually also a Grand Slam champion. Yes, both Caroline Wozniacki and Simona Halep were playing in their third Grand Slam final after finishing as runners up in their previous two appearances. And both of them displayed a lot of spirit, grit, and some excellent shot making. Of course, as I've mentioned several times during this tournament, both Wozniacki and Halep are by nature counterpunchers, and that resulted in lots of exceptional rallies, great defense, and also some great attack. I have to say both ladies served really well, and credit is due to Wozniacki. I was one of those in the camp who thought maybe Wozniacki would never win a Grand Slam, but I have to say the adjustments she's made to her game, especially in 2017, are certainly paying off. She's serving better than ever. Her serve is actually genuinely a weapon now, and she's got more fizz on her ground strokes. Credit is also due to Simona Halep, who played a very aggressive game in the final, similar to that epic semi-final win against Angie Kerber. She went out of her comfort zone, took more risks, went approached the net as much as she could, and she played some fantastic tennis. And I think at the end, in that last set when we had breaks back and forth, momentum swings back and forth, Wozniacki probably just about deserved it because she was hitting the ball more consistently, finding the lines more consistently, whereas Halep, unfortunately, was just tired out. She was really exhausted. In fact, after the end of the final, she spent more than 14 hours on court. She had one match against Kerber, which went 9-7, another match against Lauren Davis, which went 15-13. And the Australian Open conditions are not the easiest. In fact, it was a pretty brutal day on the final itself, and many people were surprised that the roof wasn't closed for the women's final like it was to be during the men's final. But nonetheless, credit to both players. Simona Halep was actually even in hospital after the tournament, but ultimately they delivered a great final, worthy of the occasion. So the question now is, how does the WTA 2 shape up with the impending return of Serena Williams? Yes, Serena Williams is making her comeback at the Fed Cup in February, and she's going to play some tour level tournaments, some Masters tournaments before the French Open. You'd have to say, on evidence of the Australian Open, I think we have to assume that a lot of players will have to step up quite a few levels to really pose a challenge to Serena. I think Wozniacki and Halep, if they maintain this sort of consistency, if they maintain this level of tennis, they certainly will give Serena a tougher time than they did in previous tournaments. And it was good to see that Angie Kerber, who had a disastrous 2017 after a great 2016, we saw the best of Kerber again at this Australian Open, and hopefully the semi-final appearance that she had turns out to be a springboard for more success towards the end of the year. But I get the feeling that we didn't really learn many new things. We saw that many of the fancy players just didn't have the mentality. Elina Svitolina, who was the bookmakers' favorite to win the tournament, just capsized completely in the quarterfinals, lost 6-4, 6-0. Garbiñe Muguruza just couldn't handle the conditions. She lost in the second round to Shea Suwei. That being said, the way Shea Suwei played, maybe it wasn't as much as an upset because she leaves us with a lot of fun memories with the way she played tennis, and the way she beat Muguruza, Radwanska, and almost beat Kerber will live long in the memory. So the rest of the year on the WTA Tour is set up for Serena Williams re-entering the stage, and then to see who will challenge her. I think Serena probably will still take one Grand Slam this year. That's my gut feeling. Now, onto the men's side, Roger Federer versus Marin Cilic. Of course, the second Grand Slam final that these two were competing against each other. second Grand Slam final in three Grand Slams, because after all, it was only the Wimbledon final last year that they played, and Federer won very convincingly. In all honesty, after the first set over here, when Federer won 6-2, you thought that Federer would win this match in convincing fashion as well. But credit to Cilic, he hung in there, he showed some mental fortitude, won the second set in a tiebreak, and just when it looked like Cilic was getting a grip in the match, Federer played a game of such artistry and such angles. He broke Cilic in the third set, won it comfortably 6-3. And in the fourth set, he was a breakup and almost a double breakup, and he thought, hey, this match will finish in 20 minutes. Instead, Roger Federer's first serve completely went off radar. From serving to about 70% in the fourth set, his first serve percentage went down to 36. Cilic broke him and then broke him again to win the fourth set. And at this moment, all the momentum was with Cilic. You sense that maybe Roger Federer, like in some previous Grand Slam finals against Novak Djokovic and Rafa Nadal, despite having more breakpoints, despite having more opportunities, was he failing mentally. But as it turned out, the first game of the fifth set was so vital because Cilic had two breakpoints in that first game of the fifth set. And if Cilic should have broken then, you didn't get the sense that Federer had it in him to come back. But Federer just held on, and I think that turned the momentum of the game because Federer broke Cilic immediately after, and he ran away with the fifth set to win 6-1. So a fantastic achievement for Roger Federer. He didn't lose any sets until the final. He looked in excellent form throughout this tournament, though on some occasions he was serving really poorly, especially on his first serve. Even in wins against Thomas Berdych and Hyun Chung, there were times when his serve dropped to below 40%, but overall he was a deserving winner. There never seemed any doubt that Federer would win this Grand Slam, especially after Rafael Nadal retired hurt in the quarterfinals. And it really is a remarkable story for Roger Federer to now have won three Grand Slams after the age of 35. It's something unparalleled in tennis, probably unparalleled in all of sport, what Federer is achieving. And the way faster courts play, you think of Wimbledon, some of the American hardcore tournaments, if Federer stays in peak physical condition, as I've said throughout my vlog in this tournament, if Federer is physically fine and if his backhand's firing, I can't see Federer losing on the faster services this year, which, while praising Federer, I think is a bit of an indictment on the rest of the tour. There were some disappointments for me on the men's side because I had high hopes for many of the young up and comers to make a splash at this Grand Slam. When you consider that Rafael Nadal had some injury doubts, though he still played in the Grand Slam, Novak Djokovic was returning after 6 months, Stan Wawrinka has injury doubts, Kei Nishikori, Milos Raonic, Andy Murray didn't even participate. I thought the stage was set for the likes of Alexander Zverev, Dominic Thiem, and even Grigor Dimitrov. And all of them in different ways disappointed me. For Alexander Zverev to lose to Hyun Chung, maybe when we look back in history, it might not be such a disaster because Hyun Chung looks like a player who's going to make it to the top 10 very soon and then stay there for a long time. But the fact that Zverev, despite being the favorite, despite being 2-1, lost that match in 5 sets, including a 6-0 fifth set, tells me there are a lot of mental demons that he still needs to conquer. Dominic Thiem, fantastic, elegant player. That single handed backhand that he hits from deep behind the baseline is so much fun to watch. But again, he lost to Tennis Sandgren, a player who didn't even win a Grand Slam match before this tournament. It just doesn't sit well with me. Outside of clay, his results in Grand Slams have been really poor. Grigor Dimitrov, after showing immense fortitude to beat Nick Kyrgios, who was probably the only youngster who lived up to the hype despite him losing in the fourth round, then goes and loses to Kyle Edmund, the 47th ranked player. It was really quite disappointing to see. Some positives from the rest of the tour, I'd say Nick Kyrgios played some fantastic tennis. He beat Joe Wilfried Songa, and he was probably even a little unfortunate to lose to Dimitrov because he ended up losing in three tiebreaks out of four. So Nick Kyrgios, if he shows that maturity, takes that maturity forward onto the rest of the season, I think he too will crack the top 10 very soon. And with his game and his shot making capabilities, he can always be a dark horse for a Grand Slam. I already talked about Hyun Chung. The reflexes, the game that he showed against Novak Djokovic and Alexander Zverev marks him as a star to watch this season. I think we're going to have a lot of fun watching this young South Korean play for the rest of the year. And even Novak Djokovic, yes, he lost in the quarterfinals, but we can't use Federer's amazing return at the Australian Open in 2017 as a benchmark for a successful return, because that's Roger Federer. But considering all the injury issues that Novak Djokovic had, in fact, I'm pretty sure injuries still hampered him at this Australian Open as well, especially his elbow. But the tennis IQ was still there. He was still able to construct points. And yes, he lost to Hee Yeon Chung in straight sets, but in each set, he fought back from a breakdown, sometimes two breaks down as well. So there are some positives to look forward to, but I really want these young players that are really hyped up to start showing some mettle and really make a splash at a Grand Slam, at least reach a semi-final. The final positive, of course, is Marin Cilic. I think Marin Cilic is showing that in that tier of players that for so many years have been below the Fab Four, you know, the likes of Songa, Gasquet, Raonic, Berdych, it's safe to say now that Cilic has reached a level that's maybe still not at the Fab Four level, but is certainly above the level of that second tier. So he's in a zone in himself. He's reached two Grand Slam finals out of three, and he's got the game. And if he conquers that mental edge, gets that confidence going, he could certainly be a contender at maybe Wimbledon or the US Open later this year. Possibly not the French because clay is not his best surface. So, all in all, Roger Federer, Caroline Wozniacki reign supreme at the Australian Open, deservedly becoming champions for playing some excellent tennis, showing some great mental fortitude, and just being inspirational in totality. So, folks, that ends my Australian Open 2018 vlog. I've had a lot of fun doing these, and I want to keep the momentum going. So, I've got some thinking to do, but I'm planning to keep these vlogs for some big matches at 500 level tournaments and Masters Series tournaments, just so that there's not a big gap on these between all the Grand Slams. I hope you've enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed doing this for all of you. For now, this is Wasim Parkar signing out.